Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the Mets, Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets. Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets. All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell, give 'em a hand, and let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the Mets, Mets of New York town, of New York town.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets at Rob with some breaking news about 2 hours ago or so. The Mets have finally signed JD Martinez. I was dying up upon that hill all by my lonesome self, as I was told I was crazy that the Mets weren't going to sign JD Martinez. No way they're going to say sign JD Martinez. You know, the Moneyball, low budget, small market team, David Stearns, has worked his magic, and I told you it was done perfectly what he was doing here. JD Martinez was going nowhere else. The only team you ever heard over the last month that was interested was the Angels, and he wasn't going there. And all you kept on hearing is some smoke over here, some smoke over there about JD Martinez and the Mets talking, and they both have mutual interest. And then our favorite Andy Martino, who's trying to save face now on X, was saying the Mets were always going to sign JD Martinez. No. You aren't backtracking, and we caught you in a bad reporting once again. You said they were not signing JD Martinez. That was it. That was what was happening. But I was here every stream with Chris, with anybody else that I did collabs with, and even on my solo shows, I kept on saying on every show, even when it didn't even matter, that JD Martinez was going to be the Met 2 months ago, that he was going to fall into the Mets lap, because it only made sense. It made sense for JD Martinez, and it made sense for the Mets and what they needed for this team. Now, the best part about this deal was that gambling fake fool in LA, Ohtani, the Mets learned from that, and the deferrals of this money is what saves the Mets a ton of money in luxury tax this year. He's getting one year, $12 million. There's a ton of deferrals. He's only getting $4.5 million this year in salary, and the rest 7.5 over years 2034 to 2038, which is an amazing deal for the New York Mets. So you're getting JD Martinez. Even if he sucks this year, he's only costing you $4.5 million. And then, 10 years from now, we'll laugh about him being the Bobby Bonilla contract salary every year if he's bad. So it's a very low risk, very high reward for the New York Mets, and it is the bat they needed. Now, this can turn in our face and he gets old rather quickly. And I think a lot of us probably have fear of that, including myself. But when Justin Turner went off the board, when Soler went off the board, JD Martinez was the perfect fit. And I appreciate the people that thought it was ridiculous for me to keep on dying upon that hill. But I always felt like it was going to happen. A lot of you in the chat right now, we're saying that I was nuts. And a lot of you remember me saying it again and again and again on every stream. And it got tiring. It was probably a boring conversation, right? The last stream I did with Chris, I brought it up. And I just felt like it was going to happen. Now, I did believe that it was going to be less than $15 million, his asking price. So he didn't take the qualifying, he didn't get the $15 million that the Giants were asking for, that was going to give him 1 year, $50 million. He took $3 million less, and he's only making $4.5 million salary this year with all those deferrals from 2034 to 2038, $7.5 million across that time span. So I do feel pretty good right now. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I'm usually dying upon that hill and being wrong, but can you find another person that believed me? I truly believe that, because, and then again, I kept the text with Andy Martino. What a freaking fraud. And everybody was starting to believe Andy Martino. And I wanted to read this tweet that he said. And this was about, let's see. All right, hold on. Here we go. 1 hour ago. Mets were always going to sign JD Martinez if the deal became irresistible. That wasn't a quote. That wasn't a quote that he said 2 days ago on Baseball Night in New York. Andy Martino specifically says they were all in on JD Davis. They were not in on it was not going to happen with JD Martinez. He specifically said that on Baseball Night in New York at 6 o'clock 2 days ago. That was his exact words. And it's funny because John Heyman, who everybody was killing, and he's the mouthpiece of Scott Boras, was telling you guys again and again and again. So Met fans were starting to believe Andy Martino and not believe in John Heyman like this was the arson judge situation, when John Heyman kept on saying, is it possible? Not 100% sure, but they are talking. And then even John Heyman even brought up, there's not many teams, and I said this many, many, many times, there wasn't a lot of teams that were willing to go to his price or above $10 million, who is only a predominant DH with no other position that he could play. Maybe in a pinch, he might play a first base or a right field once in a blue moon, but he's a predominant DH. And it was obvious that teams were scared off by that, because if you brought him in and he was bad, he takes up a roster spot because he can't do anything else other than hit. And he can't be useful on at least a few days a week basis to play another position. That's why teams were scared off by that over $10 million salary. But there was a team that was desperate for another bat. Besides the rotation, besides the bullpen, people kind of calmed down about the Montgomery situation and with the starting rotation, and people think it's going to be solid. But there was one team that was kind of, I'm not going to say that kind of a bat away, because that's not fair for the people who are already burying this team in the month of March. The fact of the matter is, he said what was important, and even David Stearns over the last 2 weeks or so was slowly kind of saying, I don't think we really need a bat. I want to give the young players bat. Could we throw out that window? I told you that the Mets, with that whole, we need to give young kids at bats, was total bull, at least when it came to Mark Vientos and the DH position. because you can still give enough at-bats at third base between Beatty and Vientos if you really need to. Now, what this tells me is that DJ Stewart is going to the minors probably, and Vientos is probably going to be that bat off the bench, or he's going to platoon with Brett Beatty at third base. So this whole time when they were telling you we want to evaluate the young kids, we want to give the young kids as many at-bats as possible, was a way to just tell you that they're looking towards the future. But over the last week or two, when Vientos has been looking average at best, the Mets were clearly concerned to go into the season with no other option than Mark Vientos, and nobody better, much better than a DJ Stewart, even a G-Man Choi. The fact of the matter is, and I'll check your comments really quickly, the fact of the matter is, the Mets were starting to be concerned later and later into spring training because you can tell in what they were talking about, and Steve Cohen saying, oh, I like what we have. I'm not going to, we want to give the young kids more time, blah, blah, blah. I read them like a book. They were lying to you guys because they were playing their cards as perfectly as a front office can, because finally the Mets got a player over a barrel here. Martinez wanted to sign before opening day. It was starting to become clear that he was getting itchy fingers and wanted to get into camp before opening day, and now he'd be there Friday or Saturday. Jeff, I can be an upset bitch all I want. The fact Andy Martino is a fucking useless reporter that embarrassed himself once again. The fact of the matter is that he was never reporting the facts. He was reporting because he does not like the Mets. He is a Yankee apologist, and Met fans started to believe Andy Martino a lot more on this subject, and that's why he is actually so wrong right now. It's embarrassing. No, I don't like him. And Jeff, this is my channel. You don't have to be here. You can go. I can assure you can find another channel. They got good content creators out there. Check them out. The fact of the matter is, I'm not giving them power because I rolled them out. I rolled them out on X as well, and I'm probably blocked by now because of the fact he does not like when he is completely wrong. He completely backtracks. Now, reporters can be wrong. That's okay. Look, if you're reporting facts and it comes up that you were wrong, that's fine. But he always retracts himself and saying the Mets are always going to sign JD Martinez. No. He didn't say that 2 days ago. That's not being wrong. That's just trying to go on both sides of the fence just to save a little bit of face. So it's funny because people were starting to believe Andy Martino. The same people that couldn't stand Andy Martino and never believed him. Jeff, you're funny, buddy. It was starting to believe him, the people who never believed him, because of that. So look, why SNY still gives him a job is amazing to me because we all know he's the Yankee apologist. The Yankees were supposed to sign Blake Snell, as Andy Martino said. The Yankees are the greatest team ever. On and on and on and on. So it's funny, but it is what it is. It just felt like that over the last week, especially when Steve Cohen spoke, David Stern spoke, they weren't kind of putting all their chips in front of the table. They weren't pushing their chips all in, right? With giving at bats to the young players, specifically Vientos, because even the reporters, the real reporters, were actually continuing to pepper Stearns and Cohen about Vientos. And slowly but surely, you see their tune change. And this tells you that they were playing behind the scenes, playing the game with Boris, working the media, even working the fans. The fans were starting to turn against him. Small market Stearns, Steve Cohen is a fraud, all that fun stuff. Yet, it was getting more and more obvious that the Mets were not trusting their options at DH. Now, G-Man Choi has looked good, and if you're going to go into the year with G-Man Choi, you would have had a problem. I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. He might be a secondary option off the bench. That's fine. If you want to put him on the bench, fine. You want to throw Vientos back in the minor leagues, I'm okay with that because he's not a real player. All right. He's barely a baseball player. Right. He doesn't have the stock or the history of JD Martinez. He had an opportunity to win a job. The Mets gave him until a week before opening day to take advantage and grab that DH by the horns and take that job. He never did enough. And this is why the Mets were playing this game perfectly with Vientos and with JD Martinez and Boris. And if it was getting more and more obvious because you started to hear, because remember, early on in the spring training, but even before pitchers and the catchers, they show Mark Vientos with Lindor. They show Mark Vientos working out in the cage every single day. They were shoving Mark Vientos down our throats because I truly believe that they wanted to give Vientos the job. But as I said, the Mets were getting more and more nervous about that because you were pushing this kid to earn a job. All you had to do was look a little above average, and the Mets wouldn't have JD Martinez right now. I truly believe that. But this whole narrative that they're not trying to win, they're botching on 2024, is kind of thrown out the window a little bit because regardless of the contract that JD Martinez got in the deferrals, they actually knew what they needed this entire time. And you can always talk about the rotation. I completely understand that. It can be a complete disaster. But there's a pretty good chance that it's probably going to be at least a little, I would say, average to slightly above average rotation, because I think a lot of these guys are going to be better than what they've shown over the last couple of years. And we're probably going to get Senga back in May when he's going to be starting to throw soon. The fact of the matter is the Mets' concern was, where was the protection behind Pete Alonso, right? Again, JD Martinez can be an absolute bust this year. But, yeah, it might hurt the team overall, but you're not handcuffed with a big salary for 1 year. So it's perfect. It's a perfect deal. It was at the perfect time, a week before opening day. Mark Vientos got over 50 at-bats during spring training when all he had to do was look like a competent hitter. He has not looked like a competent hitter. He looked like a guy that we all know has power, but still has the same problems that he continued to show over the last couple of years where the Mets were concerned. He didn't lower his strikeouts, and his pitch selection, his walk rate is still absolutely terrible. And that is the problem. Now, if Vientos would have been batting 250, 260 with a couple of home runs, I think he leads the team in home runs in spring training. But you can't bat 202 and hit 15 home runs. Like, that's not doing anything for this lineup. If that's the case, you might as well keep Vogelback, who walks. You might as well, give it to G-Man Choi or DJ Stewart. So the fact of the matter is, the Mets knew they were playing a game through the media because that's what Scott Boras does best. We all know the mouthpiece to Scott Boras is John Heyman. So I get why people were going a little crazy that John Heyman Boras was just using the Mets. But at some point, it was hard to use the Mets when there was basically no teams. And I kept on trying to look. I was even trying to make myself believe that it wasn't going to happen. Because I was looking, I'm like, which team needs a bat that could put a team, not saying over the top, but be better in the offensive category? And I was looking, a lot of teams didn't need a DH. A lot of teams already had either their DH or had a platoon situation that was working for them at DH. And teams like the Angels that JD Martinez wanted to go into. He didn't go to the Giants, who is kind of like that, on that borderline like the Mets of, they could make the playoffs if they just creep in, or they could just be not in the playoffs at all. That's where the Mets were. So he didn't go to the Giants because he didn't want to go to San Francisco. So they're out. That was the other team that needed another bat. And then look what happens. The Mets find themselves as the only team that JD Martinez was kind of looking for, that at least needed a bat, that was willing to spend a decent amount of money, and was looking for uh looking for at least a decent deal waiting so long. And it came out to be a perfect scenario. The Mets gave Vientos at least 50 at bats this spring, a week before spring training. He didn't show enough. He didn't even. What's funny, Vientos didn't even need to prove to be a really, really good hitter this spring. All he had to be was competent. Because he was bad for the majority of spring, and looking for, and around a week from now looking a little bit better, made the Mets pull the trigger on this. So it's great. The Mets needed this bat. The lineup looks a hell of a lot deeper now. Now you can push back Alvarez behind Martinez. You can just push everybody back, and now this is a deeper lineup. And that's the important thing for the Mets right now. Patrick, exactly. All he had to do was be okay. Like, David Stearns was pushing you to the finish line, and Vientos was like, no, no, no. That's what he was doing. I'm not going to talk about Ohtani because there's a lot of rumors out there. Look, Major League Baseball needs to do something. Look, there has to be something. Like, I'm sorry, you just don't. I don't care if it's your friend or not. With an illegal bookie, you don't just wire $4.5 million because your friend's in debt. Like, something's going on there. So, but Ohtani's for another day. And if you go look at my YouTube short about Ohtani earlier today, I kind of quickly explain why he needs to be suspended. But I mean, talk about a great day for the Mets. Yamamoto got beat up. I mean, I think Yamamoto's going to be fine, but he got beat up today. The Ohtani news. And now JD Martinez for the Mets later today. So, guys, I got to go to work. I was sleeping, and I slept through a little bit of the JD Martinez news. I woke up to go to the bathroom, and I looked at my phone, and I'm like, oh, shit. I thought I was getting played. Like, I was literally like, okay, is this a scam? Let me see. I saw ESPN do it. I saw Yahoo Sports. I saw MLB notification. And then I saw every other reporter on X saying it. I'm like, okay. Let me clear out my eyes. Let me put on my Mets hat, and let's go. And I'm ready to go. So 1 week before opening day, the Mets finally get their bat. JD Martinez, 1 year, $12 million. But wait, $4.5 million salary in 2024. And the rest of it is deferred from 2034 to 2038. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So I want to thank everybody for watching the breaking news. Mets signed JD Martinez 1 week before opening day. Opening day is going to be a lot better now, right? We're not, it sounds pretty good, right? Now, before we know, the rotation is going to blow up in our faces. But, man, that is a pretty damn good lineup. Pretty good lineup. Very, very good lineup. Whew, I feel good. Easy, that's fine. He can start off slow because that's usually his trend. Like, if you look at last year, his Dodger season, he batted like 210 with a couple of home runs. It wasn't looking good. And then he just started to, like, I'm expecting him to start slow. Like, he's going to I know he's been working out and in the batting cage. He'll play the rest of the 3 or 4 games of spring training and be ready to go. And it's looking good right now. I do like the Mets pen. The rotation has looked good during spring. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it is spring training, but guys that have a lot to prove, it's not even just the strikeouts, just the numbers in general. It's just the way they look. The pitches look sharp. Now, we'll see what happens when they face 9 guys in a major league lineup, but we'll see. Again, the fan base is going to get excited now, right? I wanted Justin Turner many months ago, But the next best thing, when everybody's off the table, JD Martinez was right there for the taking, and the Mets finally pulled the trigger. So I'm not going to take a bow. Yes, I will. Quick one. I had to, because I literally, for a month and a half, I've been saying he was going to fall into the Mets lap. So I feel good about that now. But the more important thing is that the Mets lineup is looking a lot better. A hell of a lot better. Let's just hope that he didn't get old yet. But even if he's above average hitter and he can hit 25 bombs, bat 250, 75 RBIs, that's a hell of a lot better than what we had the last couple of seasons. So we'll see how it goes. We get a week until opening day. I can't wait, to be honest with you guys. Next week, we're hopefully 1-0 late at night on Thursday, March 28th. With that said, guys, Martinez to the Mets, 1 year, $12 million, $4.5 million salary this year, $7.5 million of the contract from 2034 to 2038. With that said, guys, have a great night. Let's go Mets. 1 week away until opening day, guys. Have a great night. Let's go Mets. See you next time, guys. Have a great night.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball.